Good morning, we hope you're in good form. It is Thursday, a little bit of rain in the air, and what do you think about that? Is the weather going to change? I don't know whether it's worth it or not. Got a text in there. As Barney would say, sure, aren't we above ground with good food in our bellies and shelter? God will take care of the weather. That is very, very true. Very, very true. This morning we're going to be talking about the fascinating, horrendous case of the disappearance of Madeline McCann. As you remember, last March we did an extensive interview with Anthony Summers and Robin Swan. Both of them live in the Villierstown area of Waterford. They contributed to the making of the disappearance of Madeline McCann for Netflix last year. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Seamus O'Brien is going to be talking to us. He's one of the organisers for the demonstration, vigil, march, whatever you want to call it, that's due to take place in Waterford this Saturday on the Black Lives Matters issue. And Catherine's going to talk to us as well. She doesn't think it should go ahead. What do you think? Let us know. 083 33 33 975. Text or WhatsApp. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. I went along after the programme yesterday, not to get a Big Mac, of course, but just to see and to talk to people who were queuing up in their cars to get a Big Mac. You might have seen the thing on social media where a guy, I think it was someplace in Dublin, was it? He actually made a cardboard cutout with a big box of a car. And he was walking up to the drive-in with the car in this box. Very funny because he actually didn't have his own car. Anthony Kelly's going to talk to us about should we erect statues to Waterford greats. We're going to be talking to Benedicti from the Abbey Community College. We're going to be talking about the proposed wind farms and the offshore wind farms down in West Waterford. And we're going to be talking to a man who became a sniper and then loved coffee. And he's a wonderful man out in Tramore. We're going to be talking about that. Firstly, in a minute I'm going to talk to Robin Swan. I'm going to get her on the air, and I think she's going to be in the car, so hopefully the quality will be okay. The disappearance of Madeline McCann. Can you believe it is 13 years ago from the seaside resort at Praia da Luz in Portugal, May 2007, as her parents enjoyed a meal with friends 100 yards away, and people still have very strong views on this. The documentary explored the media, the investigation and the McCanns, although the McCanns themselves did not take part in the documentary series. And as we know from the papers and the news this morning, 13 years on, a convicted German paedophile who burgled holiday homes was in the resort on the night of the abduction and is at the centre of this dramatic police probe. Firstly, let's have a little listen to some of the trailer from the Netflix documentary, and then we're going to try and get Robin Swan on the line.
The entire McCann case has become a phenomenon.
If you made a dozen movies out of this, nobody would believe them.
I've done thousands of cases. With the Madeline case, I've seen the worst things a human being can see. The worst.
It is feared that a 3-year-old British girl has been abducted in Portugal.
If your child isn't safe at a resort, where is she safe?
The media made their daughter the most high-profile missing child in the world.
Some individuals represented a significant person of interest.
Police say they are now treating a British man as a suspect.
They wanted me to confess. I actually felt I was being set up.
The police had suspicions that there was some collusion happening during the night, that Maddie went missing.
This could be the breakthrough. Here it is, it all fits.
Statistically, it's likely to be someone who is in close proximity with the child.
The McCanns and their friends revised their timeline.
There is no way Kate and I are involved in this abduction.
The police leaked information to the press.
Those cops lied to me. Then there was a surprise.
The head of the investigative unit was under investigation himself.
Portanto, que eles têm feito, fazer na altura, mentir. One startling element is the sheer number of sexual predators in the area. At the time,
it's very easy to move children to other countries.
Human trafficking is a massive problem.
The value that Madeline had was really high. There's always something left to do till you find her.
Robin, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. The news that came out yesterday evening that a German prisoner has been identified as a suspect in the disappearance of Madeline McCann, detectives have revealed. What were your initial thoughts when you heard the news yesterday?
Like many people who followed this case, we had a strong inkling that this was a line of inquiry that had been being investigated for some time. Back in 2017, we knew that the Met Police, Operation Grange, in conjunction with their Portuguese partners, had a lead that they viewed as significant enough that they were able to convince the British Home Office to continue to fund them in 6 monthly periods of time, in spite of the fact that some more than $12 million has already been spent on this investigation. So we thought it must be fairly significant. The other thing I would point out is that, the Met hasn't come forward very often. They came forward in 2013, 2014 with what they thought was a significant series of leads about a sexual predator on the loose in the Algarve, and thinking that might be an opportunity to find Madeline's abductor. They came forward again when they thought that there were 4 men who had been conducting burglaries in the area of the Ocean Club, and those men remained suspects for some time and then were eventually cleared. So those are the only really other 2 occasions in all these long years when the Met has made this kind of appeal and this kind of announcement. So we thought it was significant.
In your extensive research into this matter, have you come across this potential suspect before?
I would say we have not specifically come across this suspect. There are things I'd want to look more closely at. Now, one of the areas that has always been, to my mind, extremely important is the evidence from witnesses, the testimony from witnesses that someone or more than one someone were watching that corner apartment where Madeline and her parents were staying in Praia de Luz. And there were good witnesses who talked of a fair-haired man on more than one occasion watching that apartment. And we now know that the suspect in question is indeed a blonde man. The height that has been mentioned in the vicinity of 6 feet, maybe a little taller than the man that was observed, but there was talk of 5'10" or 5'11", and these things are sometimes hard to judge. So I'd be intrigued to know how much the Met is following those leads. There are potential cross-references there. The other thing we know is that from the very beginning that Operation Grange began, it was following on the recommendations of a review done by a senior police officer for the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Service, Jim Gamble, who happens to be an Irishman. Gamble's review had indicated that one of the areas that was ripest for further investigation was the issue of the phone traffic around Praia de Luz that night. And because of the resources available to the Portuguese police at the time, that hadn't been as effectively done as it could have been. And I do know that one of the things that year on year the officers of Grange have been doing is going back and pursuing those, needle in a haystack clues of the phone traffic that night. And it seems that the phone traffic is indeed something that is perhaps placing this particular subject at the scene in Praia de Luz in the days before and on the night of Madeline's disappearance. So that's potentially extremely important.
Yes, there's a lot of clues and things to follow up on this. And we talk about the camper van. We talk about him. Obviously, he's in prison in Germany for an unrelated matter, is what German police have been saying. He had been linked to an earlier 1980s camper van with a white upper body and yellow skirting, registered in Portugal. Are you surprised, Robin, that this is only coming out now?
A cold case review is a long and windy road. When Grange began, I had identified literally some 5,000 or 6,000 potential actions they needed to take before they felt they would have completed their review, completed their research into this case. And even after 2 or 3 years of work, they had only gotten to almost about half of those. So yes, of course it's disappointing, but I think that one of the things, again, that both Jim Gamble has emphasized and the longtime head of the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Ernie Allen, has emphasized, which is that in these cases, there are people who know things, and their relationships change over time. And what one might not have been willing to say in 2020 or 2012 are two different things. And so therefore, who knows where this original lead emanated from? We don't know that yet. We know that the Met got this lead in 2017. Who supplied the lead? Was it someone close to this man? How had their relationship changed that made that person want to come forward? Was it simply a piece of some kind of other evidence that provided the lead? So it is surprising, but at the same time, it's why we do these kind of reviews. It's why the police do it, because things do pop up.
They certainly do. I know you've got a lot of interviews lined up today and other matters. Robin, thanks very much for joining us. How is Anthony? He's well?
He's very well, thank you.
Good. Please pass on our thoughts and say hello to him for us. Robin, thanks very, very much.
Our pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robin. Take it easy. OK, what do you think of that, folks? 083 333 975. Text that number, or you can send us a message in on WhatsApp. Damien, I've the greatest of respect for the Black Lives Matter protest, but I don't think this protest should go ahead on Saturday, said this other texter. And we're going to talk about restrictions and different matters. Another texter, I don't think we should have this march in Waterford this Saturday. We've been so lucky here with COVID-19. We could maybe protest in other ways, like candles in our homes. A protest in the city centre is not going to help, says that texter. A number of people texting about the Robin Swan interview already and saying she speaks very well and wondering, is this the man? We don't know. We just don't know. So let us know what you think, please. 083 333 975. A number of people also texting about the queues on the Cork Road yesterday for McDonald's. You had to inch your way out onto the road and you couldn't see with oncoming cars. I know the queues have got a bit better. A lot of people queuing again yesterday evening, but it was predicted, and we will talk about that in a little while. I know the guards were there yesterday. When I was there, they were trying to direct the traffic. Next, to protest or not to protest? That is the question. Now, in a minute, I'm going to be talking to Seamus O'Brien, Waterford Against Racism, and Catherine O'Mara. Firstly, a number of texts. A text in from Joe. After my mother died, I found a picture of Madeline McCann sellotaped to a little statue of Our Lady. She prayed every day for her safe return. I knew she wrote to the McCanns to say both herself and her friends would never give up hope of a safe return. And even though Maddie would now be 17, we shouldn't give up hope that she will be found. I often think of the matter and I get upset about it. Another person texted about the RTE News last night showing a flat complex in Dublin with the rats crawling inside the windows. We did a story about rats yesterday, so we're not going to cover rats again today. But it was interesting to see how RTE, they didn't follow up on our story, but they had a separate story on it. Seamus O'Brien, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Good to talk to you. And I think Catherine's on the line as well. Good morning, Catherine.
Morning, Damien.
Seamus, Waterford Against Racism, a vigil is planned for Waterford this Saturday. So just to remind people, in the first instance, the Black Lives Matter protest last Monday in Dublin was an act of solidarity with protesters in the United States. They've been demonstrating since George Floyd died in police custody in Minnesota, May 25th. Tell me, what is planned for Waterford City Centre on Saturday?
Yeah, OK. So, well, look, our vigil, first of all, I want to state it's not a protest. It's a respectful vigil, and it will be stewarded quite heavily. We probably are expecting between 200 and 300 people, and we intend to line them on the central aisle of the quay. 2 metres apart, holding homemade placards. And that will continue down as far down the quay as the traffic islands allow. We won't be standing on the road between the traffic islands or blocking traffic in any way. If there is such a number that fill those islands, then we will use one side of the bridge, which will be the far side, the left-hand side across the ferry bank, and out the Dublin Road, if that's what, if there's that kind of numbers turn up.
OK, and we'll talk to Catherine in a second. So it's not a protest, so you're not planning a march. That's the first thing. Is that correct?
No, there's no march.
There's no march.
We've
OK.
No guest speakers.
Okay.
There'll be nobody talking at it. We've asked people to wear masks, to bring hand sanitizer, bring bottles of water with them, and we've been constantly stressing the need to observe the social distancing measures.
Okay.
We spoke to Garda Dave Butler and Sergeant Eddie Mackey yesterday, the community liaison officer, and Eddie's in charge of the public events and health and safety and stuff, and they were satisfied with the measures that we've taken.
OK, so you've spoken to the guards. Now, somebody's texted me to say that on the Facebook page, it suggests that there might be over 600 on Saturday. What time is it due to start on Saturday? That's the first thing.
Yeah, it's due to start at 3 p.m. It will be just for 1 hour.
1 hour. So as people come along, you're going to have stewards. Are they going to be in high vis vests or something like that, or what?
They'll be identifiable. They'll be wearing an armband.
Okay.
And some of us are going early to actually kind of demonstrate what is expected. So people will all be from a little bit earlier. People will be standing in the line so that when people arrive, the stewards can just say, just stand 2 metres behind that person or that person or that person. Those stewards would be right along the quay. And we have enough stewards to cover the whole quay. So
okay. Now the event has been co-hosted by Waterford Against Racism, Maasai, Unite Against Racism, Al Munir Islamic Centre in Waterford, Anti-Deportation Ireland, Waterford Migrant Integration Forum, Anomaly Music Collective, and possibly others to be added. And what you're trying to do is show that nobody agrees with racism, and racism is a horrible, horrible thing, which I agree with on that particular point. You're 100% right on that. And the issue that we're talking about this morning is the issue of how one would protest against racism. So it's a vigil. So I'm just going to ask Catherine O'Mara. Catherine, tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you involved with Kilcohen Park, is it?
I'm living in Kilcohen Park.
You're living in Kilcohen Park, OK.
Yes.
And what you heard there, what Seamus has to say about this, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, David and Seamus, I'm completely in favour of this cause. Completely. I think it's an absolute disgrace what went on in America with George Floyd. It's terrible. Hopefully it will be the last time it happened. It's happened hundreds of times before. Hopefully this will bring light to what's happening. But I'm just afraid. I mean, Waterford has the lowest rate for COVID at the moment. And it's because we have been patient. I mean, this virus is not gone. It's because we stayed in that we have kept it so low. I mean, that march in Dublin on last Sunday, or whenever it was, there was thousands showed up for it. And I'm just afraid, is it the right time now, only coming out of phase 1, to have this vigil? Is it the right time? If it was another time, I would be 100% behind you. But I'm just nervous of the whole thing. I mean, can you guarantee that there'll be only 300 or 400 show up? What if thousands show up? What's going to happen?
Okay, you make a very good point.
I'm just afraid that this will start a second wave.
Okay, you make a very good point, Catherine. And let's see what Seamus has to say to that. Seamus, what would you have to say to Catherine there?
Good morning, Catherine. The points you make are well taken, and we certainly considered, the possibilities, and that's why we met the guards, to make sure that what we were doing was, in line with the restrictions. And yes, we have a very low rate of COVID-19 in Waterford, And most of the people who will be on that demonstration are part of, the people of Waterford who have kept that infection rate as low as possible. So, and it would be the same process as standing in line to go into the supermarket when you're queuing at the supermarket. We have the exact same measures in place as you would have if you were going into a local supermarket.
Sorry.
Pardon?
Go on, Catherine. Yeah.
Go ahead, Catherine.
I mean, Dublin was very disorganised, I thought. The crowds that showed up, and I was looking at a thing for London last night. There was no social distancing whatsoever. They had no idea how many were going to show up, and they showed up in their thousands. What if this happened here? What if this happened? How are you going to control that on Saturday? How are you going to make sure people will keep social distance if that amount of people show up? And I mean, I'm looking at your Facebook page, and there's hundreds saying, "Oh yeah, we'll be there, we'll be there, we'll be there." I'm just nervous. I agree with you. I agree completely with what you're doing, but I'm nervous, obviously.
Seamus?
Yeah, look, I mean, again, I fully understand your concerns. You're not the only one. We have been contacted by other people who have concerns, but I probably say I've been in terms of organising demonstrations and stuff, I've been involved in it for a long time, and I would not expect 600 people, even though 600 and something people said they're coming. There definitely won't probably be that amount of people. Should 600 people come, they will still be asked to adhere to the same measures as if 200 people come. But, we have sufficient stewards to cover that. But the Gardaí will be there as well. So if there's any, in terms of the stewarding, we'll look after it. But if there's any kind of, breaches in terms of criminal damage or anything, then it'll be the guards that'll be dealing with that. And yes, I saw even in France last night, I was quite shocked myself. There was a demonstration and people were standing right beside each other at the demonstration. That's why we specifically have requested this central aisle type of demonstration and vigil where people are not gathered at all. We've asked people not to gather, even if they come on the aisle. Don't even stand with your friend or your parents or whatever. Stand in single file, 2 meters apart, just to be on the safe side.
And just before Catherine comes back in, what about the 5 kilometre, I suppose, restriction? Because we're still in that phase until Monday, Seamus. Like, will you be asked?
Okay,
yeah, talk to me about that.
We have asked people who are beyond the 5 kilometre distance. Please do not come. If you want to show support, then send us a photograph or a video to the Waterford Against Racism page or stick it up on the event page, and we'll compile them all in a video for later on and we'll post that. But it's very important to say that Waterford Against Racism didn't call this protest without being asked to do so by various members of the black community in Waterford. And we were seen as, because we have a big catchment, I suppose, on our page, we were asked to host the event. But for us as white people, it's very easy to say, can we not wait? But when you see images of what happened to George Floyd, what happened to Trayvon Martin, what happened to Michael Brown, and on and on and on. And Catherine, you said there at the start, hopefully this will be the last. This won't be the last. There probably will be another one in the next couple of weeks even.
Okay.
Because
and again, we're not going to discuss that particular aspect of it. I know what you're saying, Seamus, and we all agree with that. The thing is, how do we protest? So a lot of people are texting in already saying there should be different types of vigils. People can do it from home, light candles. So, Catherine.
For our online workers, we lit candles in our windows and stood at our front door with candles. Could something have been done like that? Set up a page, and most people are on social media now. Surely to God, there's other ways to protest.
Look, there's 101 ways, I suppose, to protest.
There is, yeah.
But
it's just during these times, it's a concern of mine. It really is.
Yeah, I know, but we also have to be we have to be cognizant of the fact that people do have a right to actually go out on the street to voice their opinion and protest. Whatever is done. And I know we're living in times when there is restrictions, and people by and large are adhering to the restrictions. We certainly have down in Waterford, and we should be proud of that. But we want an event on Saturday that's very visible and showing support, not just to the people in the United States who are victims of racism, but also to people here in Ireland who are victims of racism.
And what do you have to say, Seamus? Seamus, what do you have...
Just one final point on that, especially to frontline healthcare workers, because I used to work in healthcare myself, and I can tell you, doctors in A&E are subjected to racism on a very, very regular basis.
And what do you have to say... Sorry, Catherine. What do you have to say, Seamus, to people that are texting in, and a lot of people texting in, that they can't see their families, they can't see their loved ones, they can't go to Tramore? So what have you got to say to them that you're encouraging? And you're not going to... If somebody says to you, I travelled here within the 5k distance, you can't prove it, and you're not going to turn them away, are you?
No, but look, we're not in the business of policing people either. If people are that irresponsible to do so, then I think that we would have had a huge number of infections more than this. People are not going to risk their own health and safety. We're asking people, we appeal to people, anybody who has any kind of underlying condition, please do not come.
But is it irresponsible? Is it irresponsible to organise this vigil?
Is it irresponsible? Look, I don't think it is. As I said, we consulted with the guards. They were extremely happy, had zero concerns.
No concerns at all.
When we outlined the plan to them.
But what I can't understand, God forgive me, if any of my loved ones died in the morning. I have 5 sisters, 2 brothers. I haven't seen any of those. We do a Zoom thing every Sunday night. I haven't seen any of those since this started. If I died in the morning... It's only 10 of my family can go to my funeral. So how can you...
Look, Catherine, you're not on your own. My mother was 88 last Tuesday. She lives up in New Ross, and I couldn't go up to see her. So you're not on your own. I haven't seen her for 3 months, other than through
how can you
a video call.
That it's okay for hundreds to be on a march? How can you justify that?
It's not a march. It is not a march. I want to reiterate it. Stop saying that it's a march. It's not. It's a vigil. It's a respectful 2-metre social distancing vigil. That's what it is. And we will do our utmost to make sure people do that. And we want people to not come if they're 5 kilometres or more away. Now, we have had messages from people who are living out in Sleeveroo and other places close to the city, and who said they're just going to stand on the side of the road out near their own place with their placards, just in a show of support. And then, people are not... You've already said it at the start, that we have a low rate of infection here in Waterford.
Absolutely.
Because people are responsible. People are responsible. People are still going and social distancing 2 metres apart, queuing to go into supermarkets. This isn't any different than that, other than we're doing it for a particular reason.
You have guards on the roads to beaches, to mountains, stopping people that are out of their zone.
Yeah.
So you do have people, and you have quite a lot of them travelling without...
Well,
not within their distance.
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. But I think that the vast majority of people who are coming to this thing on Saturday will be from the city. And again, I know guards are out stopping people at public amenities and beaches at times as well. But the guards, we talked to the guards yesterday, are happy enough with what. If the guards had asked us yesterday to call it off, we would have. There was no issue. It wasn't mentioned even that there was no suggestion at all from the guards that we call it off. And it was mentioned. It was mentioned about there was a march, I think, next Monday planned for Dublin, and that has been called off, I think, or maybe on Saturday it's been called off.
Yeah, I saw that.
The one in Cork on Friday has been called off because it's a march. But we're adhering to social distancing.
But the other thing, I suppose, and you've said this at the start, Seamus, you're not into policing this this vigil. In other words, if somebody comes from more than 5 kilometres, you're not going to be able to stop them, and you're not going to do that. But also, like, what's going to happen afterwards? For example, like, is everybody going to gather? Will there be a bit of a march then? Like, if protesters decide to have a march, are you going to stop them?
But the guards are going to be there. It will be policed professionally by the guards. We'll have stewards there. We've asked people to gather respectfully. And let's not forget, this is a vigil for a man who has been killed. This isn't a party. It's not a festival. There's no music. There's no entertainment. There's no speeches. This is just a respectful vigil in a public place. 2 metres apart. And look, I don't know what will happen.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. Let's not forget that. This is what this is all about. This is why I don't know why you think I'm forgetting that. I met the guards yesterday to reinforce that we hadn't forgotten it, and they were more than satisfied with the measures we had put in place.
Okay.
This is not going to be a free-for-all.
Catherine?
Are leaving it go ahead. I just don't still. I agree with what's going on. I agree with what you're doing 100%. But I just don't agree with this visual going on in these times. If it was another time, absolutely.
We might come back to this again tomorrow. Catherine, thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome, James.
Catherine O'Mara, I appreciate it. Seamus, thanks very much for joining us. A couple of texts just finally before I go, Seamus. Somebody texted in to say, are you who's responsible for the Facebook page, or has it been hacked? Somebody was saying that, is it the administrator thing? Is that all okay? It hasn't been hacked, has it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
I haven't been on it this morning, but no, I don't think.
Yeah. No. Just somebody was asking about certain texts that were sent out or messages. That's no. Okay. Listen, what we might do is we're going to give the guards a ring and just have a chat with them as well. And Seamus O'Brien, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much, Damien.
Thanks very much. Seamus O'Brien there, Waterford Against Racism, on the vigil planned for Waterford this Saturday. Quite a few texts coming in. A lot of people irate about this going ahead. A lot of people saying funerals are curtailed. I think having this vigil is responsible. Seamus and the group are organising this, so will they take responsibility for anything that happens? Good morning, this is a mass gathering, full stop. I thought they were banned for the foreseeable future. I was looking at the laws on this, and in relation to the matters on this, we were talking about the protest in Dublin on Saturday, which Seamus said on Monday, which Seamus says is quantifiably different to what's going to happen this Saturday. The regulations state that a person shall not hold an event in a relevant geographic area unless the event is a relevant event and the number of participants in the event is limited to no more than is reasonably necessary, having regard to the nature of the purposes for which the event is held. So regarding the event on Monday in Dublin, Gardaí believe that there's a prima facie case. The regulations may well have been breached. The Irish Council for Civil Liberties would disagree with that. They say there's a fundamental right to protest and it would be considered a reasonable excuse. Let us know, please, what you think. 083 333 975. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. Quite a few texts, I would say 80% of the texts saying they have doubts about the protest on Saturday. A number of people phoning 846 123. Anne phoned in to say her friend died last week. She lives outside the 5k limit and couldn't go to pay her respects. This is not the time to protest. A text in, I feel sorry for that guy doing something great about racism. We all understand the situation. Just wish him the best of luck and let us all support him. Other people saying it is irresponsible to have the protest. Totally disagree with the protest. It shouldn't be allowed. Another woman phoned in to say this could all blow up in our faces in 2 weeks' time. She has a daughter working in the front line she hasn't seen since February. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Stand at your front door instead. Another person saying it will be disgraceful if this vigil goes ahead. And other people saying, I agree with all the points that Catherine has made so far. No amount of demonstrations are going to bring back George Floyd. Why put the Gardaí under more pressure? Keep your texts and comments coming in. We are going to talk to Anthony Kelly in a second. How are you keeping?
Not too bad. And yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. You were watching the programme on Val Doonigan recently, a superstar, not appreciated in his home county. And we had a number of people texting us about how important Brendan Boyer was and is to the cultural fabric of Waterford City and County and Ireland. What do you think about the idea of putting up statues, erecting statues to people?
Well, I was just, when I heard got the sad news of Brendan's passing there on Friday morning, like Matt Keane said, it was like a dark cloud came over us. But a thought just struck me straight away. I said, Val Doonican has passed some time ago. I said, and both Brendan and Val were bestowed the freedom of the city in 2011. Now, I haven't heard a word about Val since, I said, until I watched the programme. During the COVID there, I was sitting down and there was a repeat of programmes, and there was a programme on Val there. And it only struck me how fantastic an entertainer he was. You know, a world superstar, really. And I said to myself, we have a couple of superstars, I said, and we're noted for being the city of music. And I thought of Brendan, Val, and also Gilbert O'Sullivan. But however, in relation to Brendan, I felt that Brendan was a true blue, a real Waterford man. And you might say, anyone that knew Brendan, this is speaking mostly about Brendan now, anyone that knew Brendan will remember him as being, he was a kind of a shy man, Brendan. He was a very humble and modest man. And he often felt that he was embarrassed at times by all the fame or fuss about him. But he always had time for his fans, and he was always willing to sign autographs and put Waterford on the map. He kept us on the map. Now, a thought just struck me also is that at the moment we're privileged and honoured to have a Waterford man as ambassador to the United States, Dan Mulhall. Well, Brendan went from Waterford to Las Vegas, and he was a real ambassador for Waterford back in the early 60s, late 60s there he went. And I felt that, like Val Doonican, Val, there was a hullabaloo at that time they were made of freedom, which was great. It's a great honour to bestow on anyone. But since then, they've been forgotten about. Now, Waterford's claim is to be the city of music. And just listening to Brendan's rendering there of the late, great Denny Corcoran's My City of Music,
yes,
you can feel the passion he has for the city of Waterford. And he expresses it there in that song. And I feel that it's about time we honoured our own here. I looked at there just recently at a statue to Luke Kelly being defaced in Dublin. And I said to myself, there's an awful lot of statues around. There's one in Mullingar to Joe Dolan, one to Big Tom. There's one to Christy Hennessy down in Kerry, Frank Patterson, Clonbell, Phil Linnet in Dublin. And we're the city of music. We had 3 world superstars here. We didn't recognise any.
And
if you think back now, Damien, hold up a moment now. If you think back to William Vincent Wallace, I remember when they unveiled the plaques to Vincent Wallace, they were lying dormant in the corporation yard for years. And it took years to get him back and restore him and put him on the mall there. They're on the corner there of Catholic Street at the moment. And I remember Maurice O'Doherty of RTE was down there. He was each year the event that day. And I said, I hope to God that we're not going to wait another 20 years, I said, for Val Doonican or Brendan Boyer to be honoured in their city. You see, the freedom of the city is okay, but it's not a visual thing. People that would come to Waterford wouldn't know that Brendan or Val were had the freedom of the city.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. It's a wonderful thing to be bestowed the freedom of the city, but as a lasting memorial, as a lasting tribute. And I know some towns and cities and countries over the years have gone overboard with statues, but in this case, I agree with you. I think there should be a permanent.
I'll tell you. I'll just give you an incident. I was over there at West Ham, there, the football ground there, some years ago.
Yes.
And outside Upton Park there, there's kind of a monument, a statue there, and there's 3 figures on it. There's Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst and Martin Peters, the 3 men that were associated with England winning the World Cup in '66. And I said to myself, could we have something similar? It needn't be an exorbitant thing at all. Something kind of modest of Brendan Boyer. I said, maybe Brendan Boyer, Val Doonican and Gilbert O'Sullivan. So it's just a thought I put out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, it's a very good thought. We'll see what people say. I know the number of people within the council have been saying that this is a good idea. Money's going to come into it as well. And then you have the idea as well. I suppose thankfully Gilbert is still alive. So do you put up statues to people that are just deceased, or what do you do with that? But at least if we start the conversation about it, Anthony, and look and see how much money it would cost to do it, and get a bit of a push behind it, yeah?
Yeah. I'm only suggesting this because it'll be up to the powers that be in City Hall to decide on this matter, you know. But I hope that they will act wisely, you know.
And
Brendan Boyer was a superstar, simply the best and one of our own.
Yeah.
You know.
Very well said.
May he rest in peace.
Very well said. Anthony Kelly, thanks so much for joining us, Anthony. Appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Okay, Damien. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much. God bless. Bye-bye. Anthony Kelly there. Should we erect statues to Waterford greats? We could be talking about our hurling heroes as well. We're going to be talking later in the programme about our sporting heroes in conjunction with Flahavans. I was in Dungarvan recently and some people were talking about statues they'd put up in Dungarvan to great Dungarvan and West Waterford people. What do you think? 083 333 975. Now we'll play a little bit of Brendan Boyer over some of the texts, and I'll play some of this before the end of the hour. Terry has phoned in to wonder if John Hayes should have a plaque dedicated to him for all the wonderful work he does. Well, I know John could make a lot of these statues, certainly out of wood and other products. Regarding some of the texts, they cancelled the Leaving Cert because they couldn't guarantee people wouldn't congregate after it. What makes people think they won't congregate after this vigil on Saturday? Another person, I think it is irresponsible. I totally agree that we should be against racism, but we shouldn't be involved in a vigil this Saturday. Again, a number of people saying that it is a good idea, it should go ahead, and that will be stewarded correctly. Frank has texted in to say, Gilbert O'Sullivan, does he really care about Waterford? He couldn't give a toss about Waterford. He said he'd never play here again. On the protest stroke vigil, in my opinion, we should be clapping at the doorsteps, lighting candles in our homes. If we can show solidarity over the past few months, we should be doing that for our frontline workers and for all the sacrifices they have done. Another says, I think it's totally irresponsible to have this vigil on Saturday. Loving the programme. This shouldn't go ahead. Heard the end of the interview. I disagree, and we don't know what's going to happen after the vigil, says this person. I think we should show solidarity with all healthcare workers, says this texter. As a healthcare worker myself, I'm shocked by what I believe is a dangerous thing to have this protest, this vigil on Saturday. Other people saying that can you talk to the guards and see what they have to say? Other people saying, should the guards step up and call it off now? The law says, as far as I understand, and I was just checking this regarding legality of matters, there's obviously regulations taking place, but in terms of the Gardaí had no role in sanctioning the protest in Dublin on Monday, as no sanction or permit for a protest is ever required. But obviously they do try to deal with organisers of different matters. Good morning. I don't agree that we should have a statue to Brendan Boyer. He went off to Las Vegas. Joe Dolan stayed in Ireland. That's an issue that we should discuss, and may he rest in peace. There's another interesting concept. What do you think about that? Let us know. 083 333 975.